Hey everyone, this is Jeff with Eden Learning. I've been tutoring for about 10 years now. I got a perfect score on the new and old SAT, and a couple people on Reddit were asking me to give some kind of workshop. So this is what we're going to do today. So what my plan is to go ahead and do a couple passages just so you can see kind of how I go and do those. And then from there, probably going to explain some of the passage types and then some of the question types. And anyone has any questions throughout the stream, just feel free to drop it in the comments, or you can post it on the thread that was on Reddit. I'm going to go through some of those. So gonna wait around for a little bit, see if anyone else is trying to hop on. So in the meantime, let me answer some of the more popular questions I've been getting. So one of the first questions that people have been asking me is, where do I start? And it might seem a little daunting if you're taking the test in 1 month, but it's definitely possible, but it's going to take a lot of work, especially if you still have a lot of schoolwork to take care of right now. So one of the best things you can do is first come up with a study schedule. You need to put in quite a bit of time to get a score that you want. I would say if you're trying to improve about 100 points, you want to put in at least maybe a practice test a week and 5 hours a week apart from that. If you're trying to look for bigger gains, it's all going to depend on what kind of student you are, but I would recommend maybe doubling or tripling that to 10 or 15 hours a week, and also taking a practice test maybe at least once a week or twice a week. Other than that, if you haven't done any practice tests yet, you might want to start with the College Board ones that are released. There's 8 of them that they published, and those are probably the most accurate tests because obviously College Board is creator of the test, so they're going to know a lot more of what it's going to be on there. Another reason is because the proportion of questions are a little more accurate. Sometimes, for example, like a vocab question, there may be like 5 on the real test, but on these practice tests, you can get like 2, you can get 10. It varies a lot, and you want to set yourself with a good baseline. So if you take those practice tests where those question types are changing a lot, you might not get an accurate reading of your score. You might say, hey, I'm getting a 1400 on the practice test. You show up on the real one, you might get 1200 or something like that. So the College Board ones are a little more consistent, and also it helps with identifying words you're going to talk about. So you want to make sure you're getting used to what the questions look like, how they're worded, and just the way they're even organized. So College Board, I would say, is the best bet if you haven't started any of those. I know a lot of people are on UWorld or Khan Academy, and those aren't bad as well, but one of my core philosophies is really practicing efficiently. So what you want to do is you want to do practice questions, because of course it's great studying, but the negative of just doing mass number of practice problems is you're never really understanding the right concept. You're more just understanding what you're doing wrong. And that's only going to give you marginal returns. I'm sure most of you probably been studying. You might have been plateauing at like 1400 or maybe even a little higher. But to really get close to that perfect score, you got to be consistent, and you got to know exactly the criteria of what they're asking. And the tricky part about the SAT is they ask a question, but they really mean maybe 4 other things that are implied. And you have to start getting used to what those are so you can go ahead and answer those correctly. Another question I've been getting is something about timing, especially on the reading section. There's 5 passages and only 65 minutes, so you have about 15 minutes per question. So timing really comes down to practice, but also coming up with the right strategy. You're probably familiar with this. You read the passage, you read the questions. Maybe you read the questions first, but either way, you keep coming back to the passage. You keep rereading it and rereading it and rereading it, and that's really where your timing gets all screwed up. So you're not really sure what you're looking for, and that's causing an issue. And if you practice this enough, like I've been doing this a long time, you can finish the reading section in like 30 minutes or 35 minutes, but you really have to know what you're looking for. You have to understand the passage types. You have to understand what the questions are looking for and take the quickest strategy. So first off, before worrying about timing, make sure you're just getting a high enough score. If you're not even getting 80% on the reading section, then it's not really worth worrying about the timing. You need to make sure that you're understanding concepts first. So I would advise doing those 2 things when you start, and also getting help, whether it's through Reddit, whether it's through self-studying, or even trying to find a local tutor. Or I do offer online tutoring, but I'm I'm not here trying to sell anything. I'm really just trying to help you guys out. So that's one thing that you want to do. Come up with a consistent schedule, put the time in, and there's not really a quick cheat sheet as you guys are going to learn today. You really have to understand how the test works, and I can't tell you that in 5 minutes. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump into a passage. I'm going to be working off College Board 1 right now. Most of you probably done this already, but if not, that's okay. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to work off College Board 1. So and apologies if this stream doesn't seem really polished. I'm kind of just doing it on the fly because a lot of people expressed that they wanted something. So let's see what we can do. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the comment section, and I'll also be checking the thread. So I'm going to work off the second passage because the first one is a fiction passage, and I kind of want to save that for later. So let's work off this first. So, and I do see your comment, Tej, about the insertion and deletion questions. I assume you mean that for the writing section. So we'll cover that in a little bit. Let me go ahead and try to get started a little bit on the reading. So what I would first do is I'm going to actually read the answers first, but I'm not going to consider all of them. What I'm looking for is what I call detail questions. Detail questions, but we'll get a little more into it, but they're really just straight reading comprehension questions. Those are the only ones that kind of require me to get into the nitty-gritty of things. Everything else is going to be basically based around the main idea. So I can just go ahead and skim. Somebody asked me on one of the threads, should I skim or should I read the whole thing? I pretty much just skim it in the beginning, but that comes with some practice. You have to know exactly where you're looking so you're not just missing a bunch of stuff. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and skim some of these questions and look for the ones that are detailed questions. And we'll talk about the question types in a little bit. So number 11, that says the author's most likely use the examples. That's not it. That's a purpose question. 12 is a vocab question. 13, that is going to be a detail question. And I know 13 is a detail question because it gives me that word indicate. And that what a detail question means is I'm going to keep an eye out when I read for a part that's talking about people value and gift giving. Also, there's a command of evidence here. So I'm actually not going to think too heavily about 13, and you'll kind of understand why. Because number 14 gives me places to look. Number 15 is not necessarily a detailed question either. 16, that is somewhat of a detailed question. It's kind of mixed with because feel. So I'm thinking that's going to be around lines 41 to 42. So I'll keep an eye out for around here. Okay, and then 17, another command of evidence. 18 is vocab. 19 is another purpose question. 20 and 21 are graphs. So there's not much I'm considering here. What I'm going to go ahead and do is just go ahead and get started and skim the passage. So whenever I have these italicized titles, I'm always going to consider that. I don't want to just ignore those because a lot of times it tells me basically the main idea. So in this case, there's asymmetric beliefs about gift price and feelings of appreciation. So I already know the main idea is basically about giving gifts and some different ideas about price and the feelings of appreciation. So from here, that puts me in a frame of mind, and I'm just going to go ahead and skim. Another thing I recognize, this is a social science passage, and it also is argumentative. So what the author is going to do is pitch something to us, and he's going to argue it. So I'm always considering the thesis because that's going to give me the main idea. That's going to be in the intro and most likely in the conclusion. When you write essays, where do you put thesis? At the end of the intro, probably at the beginning of the conclusion. So that's where I'm going to go ahead and look. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of skim. So I go, every day, millions of shoppers hit the stores in full force, blah, 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 blah. I know the beginning is typically going to be just some attention grabber or some introducing the topic. And then I'm already going to kind of jump towards the end in lines 10. So it says this frequent experience of gift giving can engender ambivalent feelings in gift givers. Many relish the opportunity to buy presents because gift giving offers a powerful means to build stronger bonds with one's closest peer. At the same time, they dread the thought of buying gifts. They worry that their purchases will disappoint rather than delight the intended recipients. So what this is really saying is some people like giving gifts, some people don't. If you like to annotate, and it might help you keep engaged, you can put that here. So gifts, we'll just say good and bad. From there, I'm going to go look at the topic sentences of each paragraph because that will give me the main idea of those. So I'm looking at the paragraph says anthropologists describe gift giving as a positive social process serving various political, religious, and psychological functions. And then they're talking about economics. Economists, however, offer different. So this topic sentence is only on one side. And since I see that, however, it's kind of like both of these sentences are topics. So it says the economists are saying that it's not good to give these gifts. And why they say that, if you keep going, is because people don't. So people wouldn't buy that if it was for themselves. And looking towards the end, it says research has found that people often struggle to take account of others' perspectives. So really there's this disconnect between the gift giver and the receiver. So there's a disconnect. I'm kind of skimming. It's hard to kind of demonstrate it without being right next to you guys, but hopefully you guys get the idea. The next paragraph says, what is surprising is that gift givers have considerable experience acting as both gift givers and gift recipients, but nevertheless tend to overspend each time. So it's kind of like wasting money. So what they're saying is you're spending too much money on these gifts, even though you know that you don't really care how much it costs when you're the one receiving it. So again, there's that disconnect they're kind of emphasizing. If you keep reading the rest of the paragraph, it kind of keeps going on. So this is how you skim. Once you latch onto a main idea, you kind of know the rest is just supporting that. Next paragraph, why do gift givers assume that gift price is closely linked to gift recipients' feelings of appreciation? So this is answering the question why. So why are people doing this? Why are they giving gifts that are too expensive? And they say it's because people believe the bigger gifts mean that you convey stronger signals of thoughtfulness and consideration. According to this person, Cameron and others, gift giving represents a symbolic ritual whereby gift givers attempt to signal their positive attitudes and blah, blah, blah. In this sense, gift givers may be motivated to spend more money to send a stronger signal. So it's just this kind of like a cultural thing, and it's something that they're saying we do to impress other people. So it's to impress and send off these strong signals. Last paragraph, the notion of gift givers and gift recipients being unable to account for the other party's perspective seems puzzling because people slip in and out of these roles every day. So they're saying you're not being able to have the right perspective. So that's why you're giving gifts that are too expensive. So perspective is wrong. And then towards the end, which would probably give us some more information, might have the thesis as well. It says, in theoretical terms, people fail to utilize information. So again, they're just restating you have the wrong perspective. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the questions just as if I was going to do them. You can kind of get, and later it will be a little more teaching heavy, so it won't be like this. So number 11, I identify is a purpose question because it says to highlight. So to me, purpose questions are asking me why would an author do something. So, and they're pulling from lines 1 through 9, which is that introduction portion that I kind of skimmed over. So why would he say? So let's read it. Just skim it a little more because we want to come back to it and make sure we're not completely ignoring it. So it says every day millions of shoppers hit the stores in full force, both online and on foot, searching frantically for the perfect gift. Last year, Americans spent over $30 billion at retail stores in the month of December alone. Aside from purchasing holiday gifts, most people regularly buy presents for other occasions. So just say gift giving is really frequent, like it's happening. There's a lot of money. There's all these other events. So that's just going to be letter choice A. So number 11 is letter choice A, and the other ones don't really make too much sense. Number 12 is a vocab question. So with these vocab questions, it's always in context. none of the answers you should eliminate because you think they're wrong definitions. None of them are wrong definitions technically. They can all be used for the word ambivalent in certain cases. So what I'm really looking at is which one fits the context. So I go ahead and read that section. I want to read a little before. I want to read a little bit after. Since we just read that part before, there's no reason to do it again. So frequent experience of gift giving can engender ambivalent feelings in gift givers. And then it starts talking about how some people like it, some people don't like it. So what I like to do is kind of fill in a word, and I kind of see that there's that conflict. Some people like it, some people don't. The people are divided. And actually conflict is letter choice B. So 12 is going to be B. 13 and 14. Okay, so this is where it might get a little unusual. You probably naturally do 13 first, and then you're going to go to 14. But I'm going to flip that around, and I'm going to actually start with number 14. So what I want to do is I'm going to do number 14. And why I do that is because it gives me 4 places to look rather than the whole passage. So I'm going to go read lines 10 to 13, which I just did. First, sorry, let me slow down a little bit. 13 is asking for the benefits or why people give gifts. And if you remember my little map here, Y is going to be over here. So it's probably not going to be A, B, or C. Because those don't really talk about why people are giving gifts. When I skimmed it, I already knew it was going to be over there. So I'm latching on to answer choice D right here. So lines 44 to 47. So that's right here. Although a link between gift price feelings of appreciation might seem intuitive gift givers, such an assumption may be unfounded. So sorry, I messed up right there. So I rushed a little too much. That didn't really give the value of it. So the value was in this paragraph, and they don't give us any options there. So we might have to actually go and look at all the lines. So 10 to 13 starts from many. So many relish the opportunity to buy presents because gift giving offers powerful means. Okay, so that's what it is right there. That's why people are giving it. They relish the opportunity to build these stronger bonds. If you go look at 22 to 23, it's not going to be it's not, sorry, I was looking at a comment. It's not going to be any of those. They're all irrelevant. They don't tell you why. I just saw Jasper's comment. He's asking why is 11, D is incorrect. So let's talk about why D is wrong, because they do talk about the number of special occasions. But remember, this is what I'm calling a purpose question. So this is where knowing the question type really, really comes in handy, because if you treat it as a detailed question, then yeah, D could be right because that's what he said. But remember, we're talking about why an author would do something. So we have to understand what is his goal. His goal is to argue that people are spending too much money on gifts. So why would he talk about all these high amounts of gifts? He's trying to set the baseline and trying to say, like, look, this is an important issue. Because what typically happens with these purpose questions in the beginning is they're trying to introduce the problem, and then they provide whatever they think is the solution, or they criticize whatever the problem is. So in this case, it's going to be A, because it's more about how often people shop, because he's setting that baseline. So when he continues his argument later, you kind of have that contrast. So sorry, let's get back to it. So number 14 I picked was A. And then since 13 is a detail question, it's just going to be straight reading comprehension and explicit. So what they said again was to build stronger bonds. So that's going to be letter choice D. So let's move on to 15 and 16. So 15, social psychologists mentioned in paragraph 2 would likely describe the dead weight loss phenomenon as blank. So this is kind of an inference question. It doesn't really tell you what they would think it is, but you kind of have to understand, you kind of have to make that assumption. You have to infer, right? So with inference questions, you always have to understand the position, which means you need to know what the main idea is. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and look for a topic sentence, or look for that in that area, exactly what they say and what their position is. So social psychologists, which is, let me see, it's in paragraph 2. It says lines 17 to 34. And I'm having a little bit trouble finding it. Okay, right here. So social psychologists are in lines 30. So first, that sentence itself already gives me a ton of information. It says that in itself is not surprising. What I recognize, what I recognize is all these answer choices are adjectives. So I'm going to look for similar adjectives because that will kind of tell me how they feel about certain things. So that surprising is going to be my keyword there. And so what are they not surprised by? They're not surprised that people are spending more than what other people would want. So if they're not surprised, then they would say it's predictable. That's letter choice A. 16, passage indicates that the assumption made by gift givers in line 41 to 44 may be blank. So gift givers in line 41 to 44, that says gift givers equate how much they spend with how much recipients will appreciate the gift. So people are, again, think that if I spend more, they'll be really, really appreciative, but the author is saying that's incorrect. But they're just talking about the gift givers right now. So it doesn't say anything about them being insincere. This is unreasonable. That's not necessarily the case too, because that next sentence, it says, although a link between might seem intuitive. So it's not unreasonable because it's intuitive, but it's very clearly incorrect to them. And that's the whole point of that main idea. So he says that assumption is incorrect. It's letter choice C. And I actually missed this, but I should have looked at this command of evidence first, but it was on the next page, so I kind of missed it. So let's go ahead and check some of these. And why does he say it's incorrect? So perhaps the first option, letter choice A, perhaps givers believe that bigger gifts convey stronger signals. Again, that's what people think. That's not what the authors are saying about them. So A is off the table. B, according to Cameray and others, gift giving represents symbolic ritual. Again, that's not saying that it's incorrect. That's saying more that this is intuitive or something that we just do. And then lines 63 to 65 says, as for gift receipts, they may not construe smaller and larger gifts as representing smaller and larger. So this is the part right here. This is crucial. This is the right answer because it's saying the gift receiver doesn't interpret it that way. So when you're giving these big amounts, you're wrong. Okay, and then 18, another vocab and context question. So yeah, what I'm going to do is the same thing. I'm going to read a little before, a little after, kind of pick the one that sounds the best here. So if I can go ahead and find that, it's right here. So why do gift givers assume that gift price is closely linked to gift recipients' feelings of appreciation? Perhaps givers believe that bigger gifts convey stronger signals of thoughtfulness. So what am I trying to say here? Bigger gifts say or show stronger signals of thoughtfulness and consideration. So that's going to be D, communicate. So again, I like to come up with my own word and find a synonym. 19, the authors refer to the work of Cameray and others in order to. So that's right here. First, this is another purpose question. Why does he do it? We first have to understand what it is before we can answer why he does it. So Cameray is saying that we give these gifts because it's part of our culture. It's a ritual, blah, blah, blah. We've kind of a couple times. So that's kind of what the author is saying. Why author saying, sorry, let me try to reiterate that. So represents symbolic. So we're trying to show that we're willing to invest in resources. In this sense, gift givers may be motivated to have more money. So what this is doing, again, we want to look at the topic sentence, which is why do they associate this? All this stuff, this example is an answer to that. This answers that question at the beginning. So if he's trying to answer the question, he's trying to actually offer an explanation, which is A. He's answering it. He's giving an explanation for that question. Okay, 20 and 21. So with these graph questions, let me go ahead and blow this up a little bit. But these graph questions are not considering the past 2 months unless question versus these two. Well, you're just figuring out which one is accurate. So let me see if I can. All right, I'm trying to A little difficult to do this all on the computer, but we'll make do. So this is the graph, and let's go to the question. In 20. So 20, it says the graph following passage offers evidence that gift givers base their prediction on what? Okay, so what I'm going to do with graph questions is always look at my axes, because that's going to tell me what I'm looking at. So, and the title right here. So the title here, they're saying givers perceived and recipients actual gift recipiation. So again, it's the same thing that they've been hammering home this whole time. If you noticed, if you lock onto that main idea, every question just comes back to the main idea. It's getting repetitive at this point. So how much a gift will be appreciated based on the monetary amount, right? It's always been about the money, more expensive. So that's going to be B. 21, the authors would likely attribute the differences in gift giver and recipient mean appreciation as represented in the graph. So again, it's not about the graph anymore. This graph is just proving what they already said about that disconnect. And if you remember, we talked about it's going to be inability to shift perspective. That was that main conclusion. It's like, why do we not understand? We're not able to shift perspective. So I kind of went over it a little slow because I was trying to explain my thoughts behind it as I was doing it. But I hope you kind of understand my process. Now, any questions, keep them in the comments, throw them in the thread. I'm still checking it. But now I'm going to kind of give you more of the teaching heavy aspect of this. So one of the key things that you notice that I did is really I try to understand what question types were happening. So let's talk a little bit about question types. You heard me throw out some phrases like detail, purpose, all these things, but let's try to understand what that means. So first, let me just write down all the ones that I basically classify the questions as. So I got a detail question. So I'll lay them all out, and then we'll see some examples later. So purpose, inference, tone. You have organization, vocab, graphs, compare and contrast, and command of evidence. So there's only 9 that I really identified. They have little nuances within these question types, but this is a lot better than, say, like the writing section. The writing section has maybe 30. The math, probably over 50 if you count every single concept they're testing you on. So let's go ahead and talk about some of these. I'll give you a second. I'll leave it up for 15 seconds or 30 seconds if you want to write these down. And I'm going to take it away and start breaking them down piece by piece. So go ahead, write it down. If you have any questions, keep chatting, because otherwise I feel like I'm just kind of talking to myself. And I didn't forget about you, Tej. I'm going to still talk about that writing thing, but since I've been kind of hashing out the reading, I kind of want to get to flow a little better, so hope you don't mind. Okay, so let's kind of describe what they are and what they look like first, and then we can talk about some of the strategies you want to take. So detail questions. So let's start with detail. These are my detail questions. So detail questions, these are your basic reading comprehension questions. They're going to answer what? So they're going to ask you for like a detail in the passage. So these are often paired with those command of evidence. If you notice why, it's because detail questions always need very clear textual support. So clear textual support. Also, if you're enjoying it, hopefully you can like and subscribe because we're just starting this out. I'm trying to see if people like this. If people really like it, I'll go ahead and make some more of these for the writing section and the math, and maybe getting into more of the nitty-gritty of this. Today, I'm just trying to give you an overview of the strategy. So, clear textual support, and this should be very explicit. Like, it's explicitly stated. Maybe not in the exact wording of the answers, but it's got to be very, very clear. So these are the detailed questions. Some of those keywords that you might see. Let's talk about some of those keywords. So usually one of the keywords, this might be a little hard. You see like in the passage, or the passage says, or the passage suggests something. So we got like passage says. Sorry, let me do this a little bit different. So you got passage says, passage indicates, or it says like the main point. It might say passage shows, author said. There's basically words where they're just saying, what did the passage say, right? So you'll start getting a better feel and recognizing these, but these are some of the keywords that you're looking out for. So this is not an exhaustive list. Again, I'm just trying to give you guys an overview today. So I'll leave it up for a little bit, but I'm gonna go to the next question type, and then after maybe we can go ahead and do a little more. Okay. So that's detail. I'm just gonna try to show you what it is, what the question is, how to recognize it, and then I'll show you some that are actually on the SAT. So the next was that purpose question. So purpose, these are our why questions. So why did the author do something? Okay, so these are very, very prevalent. I would say detail and purpose question, command of evidence, those show up the most. So you got to master these three. This is where you're going to pick up the most of your points, the bulk of your points. Jasper, what I mean by main point, sorry, the chat is a little delayed, but what I mean by main point is the main idea of the passage. That's usually how they ask the question. It'd be like, what is the main point of passage 1 or paragraph 1? What's the main point of paragraph 3? What's, something like that. So it's just asking, what is the main idea here? So that's for detailed questions. Let's jump back to the purpose questions. And so purpose questions are these why questions. Why did an author do this? One of the best things you can do is, put yourself in the shoes of the author. I know it might sound a little crazy, but I mean, these authors, they're not as different as what you would expect. They're not really ridiculous. They're very formulaic. They're very standard. They're not doing anything tricky or creative. It's very formulaic. So just like you write your 5-paragraph essays, why would you bring in an example? Probably to support your main point. So also with purpose questions, location is pretty important. If it's at the beginning of a passage, it serves a way different function as if it's in a body paragraph. So consider some of your location, okay? And then we'll talk a little more about some strategies, but I'm just trying to give you a feel of what this is. So again, some of those keywords, it's going to say like the main purpose is blah, 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 or it can say main purpose is, it can say, why does the author do blah, blah, blah? Why does it bring an example, X, Y, Z? It can say the author uses something to highlight. So to highlight is always a big one. You can see stuff like serves to, so like paragraph 2 serves to do something. You might say functions to. Some people call these function problems. I like to call them purpose questions. I think it's a little more intuitive. And then something, the author does something to indicate. So really, if you see like these infinitives, it's kind of tipping you off. Like, this is a purpose question. I'm doing this to do something else, to serve some kind of purpose. So those are some of the keywords for purpose. Sorry, I know the chat is delayed, but please try to communicate if you have questions. If I'm going too fast, too slow, give me some feedback. This is my first time trying it, so I'm just trying to help you guys out. So let me know how it's going. I'm going to try to respond to everyone who's commenting. Okay, I'm going to leave this up a little bit and see if you want to take a few notes or something. And then I'm going to go ahead and jump to the next question type. Cool. So the next one I'm going to go over is, I think I said next was the inference. So inference. These are one of the hardest questions on the test, but with a little practice doesn't mean you can't get them too. You just have to know the right strategy. You have to know what they're looking for, right? So inference questions, they're asking you to make an educated guess or conclusion based on some aspect of the passage. So you have to make some kind of inference or make a guess, right? So you kind of have to guess. But that guess is it's not grounded in nothing. It's an educated guess. So this is still going to be, this is more like implicit, not explicit, but implicit textual support. So you should still get your answer from the passage. Again, this is the passage-based reading section. So if you're not getting from passage, you're probably wrong. Stellar just asked, he said, great explanation. What section did you struggle the most on reading before you got your perfect score? So if you're asking section by question types, or if you're asking section maybe by passage types, I would say, honestly, the hardest is probably going to be like your inference questions, because again, it's implicit. You kind of have to assume. Sometimes when you assume, your brain can run a little wild. You can go think about a couple different things. If you're talking about maybe passage type, I know like science is sometimes annoying. It's really different passage. You know, you have historical, one social science, one science, and one fiction, and then one of those other three gets repeated minus the fiction. So typically science tends to be hard for some people. If you're talking about section on just the whole SAT, I mean, I'm kind of a math guy, so math wasn't too hard for me. Reading at the beginning was kind of confusing. I mean, once I boiled it down to like this kind of a science, it's a lot easier because I know what I'm looking for. I know exactly where to look. And it's almost just like math. Math has formulas. Reading kind of has a formula. Like if it's a detailed question, you know, I'm going to have to get textual support. If it's something like a purpose question, you know, I'm looking for main ideas. I'm looking at topic sentences, thesis statements, and stuff like that. So Jasper asked if we could take a look over some fiction passages. We can take a look. I don't know how much time we'll have. I don't want to maybe do what I did in the beginning. It might take a little long. That'll take 20 minutes, but I am going to introduce you guys to all the different passage types. So thanks for the comments, guys. Keep commenting. I like answering your questions. It also makes me feel like more engaged into this instead of just lecturing to you guys. So back to inference. So you have to make a guess. You have to have implicit textual support. Also, okay, there's a couple ways you can have these inference questions. You can have a deduction. You can have examination, or you can have a speculation. So let me go and explain what some of this means, because it's really important that you understand what kind of inference you're making. Because if you don't understand what inference you're making, again, your brain runs wild. You're not really sure what you're doing. You're just kind of pulling an answer out of your butt. So let's look at what the deduction is. Something is stated in the past, and you kind of have to give the logical extension to it. So these are similar to detailed questions. So they might sound like detailed questions, but they're really not. So Jake asked guessing strategy on reading. So okay, so with the new SAT, you should always be guessing. They're not taking points off at all for guessing. If you get something wrong, no big deal. If you're running out of time, bubble it, anything. But in terms of strategy, the reading, it's a little harder to eliminate things. If you're worried about process of elimination, that always helps. Some things you can think about are very extreme answers. I can teach you guys some of the tips and tricks, like more of the general things after. But some of the things would be maybe like avoid extreme answers. You don't want to pick answers that like utter decimation or utter desolation, or like these very strong words with strong connotation, because authors aren't going to be that strong a lot of the times. You don't want to say pick any answer choices where it says everyone does this, everyone believes gifts are good, or like nobody. These are just too extreme. Nothing in life is that black and white pretty much, and your answer shouldn't be like that at all either. So guessing strategy, let me think what else I would do. I mean, honestly, I'm not guessing too often, but some other things you could do. Yeah, it's kind of hard on the reading, to be honest, man. You can't guess too much. Like you should know the concepts. I would say you don't want to guess at all. But if you have no choice, I mean, you just go for it at that point. Try to eliminate things. Again, that depends on question type. If it's a detailed question, I can eliminate in a different way from a purpose or inference question. Where should I look in a passage to make an implicit question? Okay, so let me explain what these three types are first, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about where I should look. Because, again, we're not reading the whole passage in depth. That's going to be a waste of time. We're going to skim. We're going to look exactly where we need to, and we're going to get it done fast. So, cool. So back to it. Deduction is kind of like a detail question, but not exactly. So it's like detail plus one step. So let's say, let me give you an example. So like the passage we did before, people like giving gifts. Or let's say like giving expensive gifts. A deduction question would be like, would he want to give? So it could be like, what is most likely to be given? And you got like A, iPad, B, pencil, like something like this. C, I don't know, tissues. I'm just using this as an example to prove a point, but it's just a logical extension. They never said that people like to buy iPads or pencils or tissues, but they said people like giving expensive gifts, so they're probably going to give the iPad, So it's just a logical extension. Another example maybe is like, I like eating healthy food. And then it'd be like, do I like eating McDonald's? Probably not. So you're I never said I hate McDonald's, but if I say I like healthy foods, I'm not a liar, then I probably don't like McDonald's. So that's kind of what a deduction is. Examination, these are where they're asking you to kind of put yourself in the head of the author. So what would the author think? Author would think. These kind of come up a lot on paired passages. What would author of passage 1 think of author of passage 2? Blah, 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 something like that, right? So examination, these are probably the hardest just because like they're asking you to be a mind reader, but really it's not that difficult. So the basic strategy here is, look for the position of the author. So the author's going to say something, he's going to be, and this is again your thesis statements. So position, thesis. And then it makes sense, right? If the author says people are spending too much money on gifts, what would the author think about, buying somebody a laptop? Probably wrong, right? So speculation, these are questions that kind of ask you to consider the meaning of a statement. So these are almost like vocab questions. And they're asking you to think, what is the most good? Okay, I got it. So it can say something like the author. These get a little confusing because they're not exactly categorized the best, but I just kind of place them under inference. But it's kind of a mix of an inference, a purpose, and a vocab all at once. But I'd be like, why does the author use the term, haughty or something? It's to emphasize something, but also you kind of have to understand the statement. So that's these are the different types of inference questions. Some of those keywords that you're looking out for. You're going to be looking out for a few things, but so keywords. Okay, a lot of times they ask you, they literally say infer. So inference, infer. Sorry, it's a little messy. I'm kind of writing on my Surface Pro, and sometimes it kind of reads my hand on it and makes these marks. So it also is like the author would most likely. Does the passage agree with? Does the passage or author agree with? And then author implies, something like this. Passage implies. How would they react to blah, 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 like passage 1, passage 2. Remember, these inference questions, they're going to come up a lot on those paired passages. Okay, I'm going to leave it up for a little bit. I'm going to take a little break and see if anyone has any questions, and then we'll continue with some of the rest of the question types. And I'm going to go ahead and answer some of the questions that are on the thread. But feel free right now to ask any questions, and then I'll move on. You know what? And I'll also talk about those adding and deleting questions, because I've been keeping Tej waiting for a while. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name right. Sorry. Okay, so somebody also asked what sources you use to practice. I kind of talked about that. I would say College Board. Nothing's bad. Again, practice questions, I would say, are more of a means to just like getting the reps in. It's kind of like if you walk into math class, right? Like if you don't know how to do calculus and you're trying to learn to do derivatives, you don't just start doing a billion like derivative problems. You got to get the teaching first. You got to understand the concept, and then you practice it to make sure you're good at recognizing it and stuff like that. Someone also asked about timing. Okay, so if you are timing yourself, you have 15 minutes per passage. That's reading and the questions. Again, if you have the right strategies and approaches, if you get these question types, timing shouldn't be that big of an issue, because you're not going back to the passage 500 times. I think Dr. T asked also, how do you learn from your mistakes on the reading section? First, again, you're not always asking yourself why you got something wrong, because you got to learn how to do it right too. So part of that is, okay, identifying why you messed up, but that's not all of it. If you stop there, you're not really learning everything. So what you really got to do is, okay, you need to look for trends. You got to start identifying, which question types am I missing? And that's what I've been doing with some people that have been sending me their practice tests. I've been saying, hey, man, you're missing a ton of command evidence. Those you shouldn't be missing. Here's the strategy. Work on this. Also, you want to study efficiently. For my tutoring agency, we actually give students like command evidence problems if that's what they're missing. Like, we're not going to feed you detailed questions if you're going to keep doing it, if you're going to keep getting them right. That's kind of a waste of time, right? It's like if you're good at math, you're good at inequalities. Why do you keep practicing inequalities? You be focusing on derivatives. You're missing that, To elaborate on speculation. Let me do that in 1 second, because Jasper asked, March SAT, is it 30 days? Is this enough to go from -9 to -5 or below? Yeah, man, it definitely depends on what kind of questions you're missing. But I mean, like, if you're missing command of evidence problems, those should be freebies. Like, honestly, 3 of the lines aren't even relevant a lot of times. So if you're missing those easy points to pick up. It all depends on what you're missing. But if you put in the work, 4 questions is more than doable. Would I recommend the Erica Meltzler critical reading? Again, I don't think any resources are. I would always say, if you haven't exhausted any of those resources, use them first. I think it's fine. I don't think it's a bad book. And then Metallic asked to elaborate on speculation. So let me kind of show you an example, maybe, and that might help. But this might take me a little while to find it. So hope you guys don't mind. It might take a little bit, but And I would say speculation is the least likely that you're going to get asked. It's really not that common of a question. You might not even get it on the whole test. So let's see. Keep asking questions because that's gonna take me a little while to find a good example. I would say something like 27. I would count as a speculation. It's kind of like a purpose question. Some of them are more purpose question heavy, but I mean, don't get too caught up in the question types. The question types are to put you in a frame of mind. It's not to lock you into something. So I'd say 27 is kind of like a speculation. It's like, why did he use these words in these lines? It's probably to emphasize. So when he says exact, specific, compliment, you know, I think I did this one before, but it's probably to support, emphasize how one is replication, right? So he's trying to say it's really exact. It's really specific because it's like a direct copy of something. So something similar to that, but you know, don't worry too much about those. I would say just identify question types first. Okay, let me jump to the writing section real fast. Hope you don't mind, but it's gonna be really helpful for you guys too. So these adding and delete questions. So Ted, hope you're still here. This is your time. So okay, number 6, right? So it says the writer is considering deleting the underlined sentence. Should the writer do this? So before I jump into these, this is kind of what it looks like, right? So before I jump into actually doing it, let me tell you about these addition or deleting problems. So again, this is for the writing section. So if you're kind of lost, sorry, I'm kind of jumping over the place, but I really want to engage with you guys and not just give you a whole long lecture. I'm not sure if I'll be able to cover everything right now, because honestly, you know, when I tutor students, we put in like hours and hours into this thing. It's hard to just pick it up right away. So addition and deletion. So what you're always considering is it relevant? And is it repetitive, right? So relevant, because if it's relevant, then yeah, why not? Take it in. If it's yes, then keep it. If it's no, then get rid of it, right? It's not, it doesn't, so get rid of it. Repetitive, it's repetitive. If it is, then yes, then get rid of it. Because you don't want to make it longer than it needs to be. Is it not repetitive? Then, you know, keep it. That's really the essence of this. So what I like to do with this is, again, main idea. You're going to hear me say this over and over and over and over again. But that's because if you lock it to a main idea, man, you're going to get every freaking question right, whether it's on the reading or it's these kinds of questions on the writing. So what you got to really practice identifying main ideas. That's something you've been doing in school. You probably know how to do it. You got to look at your topic sentences. You got to look at your thesis. This is the #1 trick. I mean, it sounds like, it doesn't sound revolutionary, but when you're doing the test, you just sometimes have a different mentality. And Metallic, I was just gonna answer that question. Do I read the entire passage in writing? Heck no, man. You got like less than a minute for every question. There's only certain question types. I'm gonna go ahead and read the passage. I don't even read most of it. I skim it. I don't even skim it sometimes. I just straight ignore some of it. And that comes with understanding the question types again. So you know which questions you actually need to. So like with these addition and deletion questions, you actually have to read it, you know, because you have to get the main idea. But again, I'm not reading the whole thing. I'm skimming for the main idea. I know where to look. It's in the topic sentence. It's going to be where that thesis is at. So let me just do an example real fast for him. And let's do number 6, right? So another trick is I'm going to look at the title because that tells me what this whole thing is about, right? So way to go. Looks like they're trying to make a joke. Whey protein, something about this yogurt. So that's what I'm going to consider is the overarching main idea. But let's see what the main idea is here. So it says, though these conservation methods can be costly and time consuming, they are well worth the effort. Nutritionist, since it's the first sentence, it's kind of hard to use it as a topic sentence because obviously we might change it. So what I'm going to do again instead is kind of read the rest, skim it. Nutritionists consider Greek yogurt to be a healthy food. It is an excellent source of calcium, protein, serves blah blah blah. So those are all the benefits. Greek yogurt is slightly lower and blah blah blah. Okay, so really it's just saying the benefits of Greek yogurt. So is this talking about conservation methods? Where again the criteria relevant and repetitive. It's not relevant. I'm going to get rid of it. So we're in between C and D. And no, because it sets up the argument in the paragraph. So it's going to be D here because, again, we're talking about the benefits of Greek yogurt, and that doesn't talk about it. C, that doesn't really make sense. So that's kind of how you do these. And these are the pretty much this and maybe some of the organization questions where you kind of move all those things around are the only ones you're really going to need to read the passage for. I'll do a writing workshop if you guys are interested. Maybe post in the comments and let me know if that's something you're interested in. I don't know. Sorry, that's my HQ. I don't know if you guys play HQ. It's kind of fun. Shameless plug. But yeah, so if you guys are interested in a writing workshop too, let me know. Also, my strategy with the question types, it's really effective with these because on the writing section, because there are no questions on the writing. So you need to understand what criteria you're basing your answer choice off of, and that will be really relevant. So people are asking some questions, which I love. If you guys want me to continue doing the question types for reading, maybe post that too. Otherwise, I'm going to keep answering people's questions first, and then we'll just move on from there. Paired passages. So Stellar Starmie is asking about these paired passages. So paired passages, there's some strategy to it. Obviously, it's long. So what I like to do is passage one questions only first, and then passage two questions only after, and then I like to do the ones where it's about both, just because it kind of reduces the chance of careless mistakes. If I just read passage one and then I do the questions, I'm a lot more likely to, remember what it said and not make these random assumptions in my head. So I like to do it like that. Again, paired passages, it's always going to ask you what did passage one think about passage two, something like that, right? You're going to get a lot of these compare and contrast problems. So what you want to do, again, I'm going to say this a million times. You need the main idea, man. You need to find the thesis. You need to find the position, right? They're always going to argue pretty much. They're going to be argumentative. So you got to know what they're doing. So in this example, without even reading it, I could find the positions just from this italicized portion. So passage one says space mining the next gold rush. So he's kind of basically saying like, he's implying if you space mining, it's going to be profitable. So it sounds like a positive thing. The other guy says taming the final frontier. Okay. So it sounds taming. He's kind of implying like there's going to be some hard aspects to it. But if I don't do it, if I don't get enough info there, I'm going to go look at where am I looking? Beginning and end. So follow the money and you'll end up in space. That's the message from a first of its kind forum on mining beyond Earth. The end. Companies are eyeing iron, silicon, aluminum, blah, blah, blah. So it sounds like mining is profitable. That's his main position. Passage two, he says, past year, a lot of people are interested in mining. No doubt this will make people richer, but everyone stands to gain. So there's some positive. Just because I see the but here, I already know it's not going to be all positive, right? So I look at the end, and it also says, without consensus, claims will be disputed, investments risky, and the gains made insecure. So there's some negative, but it is in all our long-term interest to seek one out. So it's both positive and negative. So you can tell these guys kind of agree, but they kind of don't, right? So passage two is a little more cautious and wary, kind of plays both sides of the positive and negative. Passage one, pretty all positive. So pair passages are going to ask you what you think of each other. So you got to understand the positions. So, your relationships are either in agreement, they're either in disagreement, or they're talking about the same topic, but they're not kind of on the same discussion level. So they can both be talking about space mining. One guy can talk about it from an economic perspective. One guy can talk about it from a political standpoint. It's not necessarily agreeing or disagreeing. I'll throw out a quick tip. I hope you're paying attention. This is kind of important, but with paired passages, whenever they're in disagreement and they ask you what would they both agree on, it has to be a pretty neutral answer, because obviously if they're disagreeing, they're not going to agree on something that's core to what they're arguing, right? So it's always going to be a pretty neutral answer. Okay. Sorry, I didn't respond to you, Jasper, about making an appointment. So after you make an appointment, you should have added me on Skype or something, and then we can go ahead and kind of get a little more in-depth on your specific issues, and we'll just go from there. You call me, or I'll call you around that time that you scheduled. So nothing too difficult. If you guys are interested in getting some tutoring, I mean, I'm trying to throw out all the details, but it's hard when it's not a place where we're able to interact with each other. So what I'm going to do more videos, also trying to write an entire guide, right? So when I finish writing that whole guide, I'll send it to you guys, but you got to be on an email newsletter, because I don't know, I got like 50 plus PMs, so it's going to be hard to give it to you like that. So I need to have your email somewhere. So that's that. And then, cool. Yeah, sign up on our website for a consultation if you're interested in tutoring. That way I can kind of tell you your personal needs. It's hard for me to just give you this general advice, and then, you know, everyone's a little different. It's different if you're at 1,000 versus, you know, 2,000, or what am I saying? 2,000. I mean like 1,500 or 1,400. Going a little crazy here, guys. I've been like lecturing for like an hour, so I hope you guys keep asking me some questions. So Metalik says, how do you approach a writing problem? So let me do a quick example. I'm not going to do a whole workshop on writing right now. That'll have to be for another time. Remember, if you want me to do it, try to like or subscribe, or tell me you want me to do it in the chat. Just because I don't really want to do it if it's just for 1 or 2 people, to be honest. So just keep letting me know. So writing problem, what I want to do in a writing problem is I want to analyze my answer choices to see what kind of question they're asking. So something like number 1, when they say outdo, defeat, outperform, outweigh, they're all completely different words. So I know this is a diction or a vocab question. So really, there's a couple of things I can consider. I usually want to consider style and tone. If the whole passage is very professional and then it starts throwing out some slang, I'm not in those. Again, I'm going to avoid extreme answers, and then just try to find the nuances between these words. So that's kind of what's going to happen there. Naturally, some of these are pretty easy. Something like 3. Okay, so now I look at the answer choices. I see can't pollute waterways, and then I got apostrophes, I got commas. It's pretty much, it's going to be a punctuation problem. So I know I'm thinking about my grammar rules at this point. Something like number 2, which I skipped, sorry, which choice provides, when they actually ask you a question, like most relevant detail, you just follow that criteria. Whatever they're saying, most specific, most descriptive, you're really just locking into that criteria that they're giving you. So don't consider grammar, don't consider sentence structure, none of that stuff. That's what you're going to do. Number 4, another punctuation. This is actually the very, very, very classic one. It's going to be semicolon, colon, comma, versus, and dash sometimes. You got to understand, you got to know your semicolon rules, you got to know some comma rules, you got to know some a dash and a colon does. So those are easy to learn. You should go and spend some time if you don't know what those do, because those are like 4 free points on the writing section. There's going to be like 4 or 5 of those. 5 is like an organization question, right? So it's asking me to place it. So that there's a couple ways to approach that, but I'm not gonna go over every single strategy right now. It's gonna take a while. Sorry. We did adding and deletion. Number 7, I see like as, like, for, to be. These are prepositions, so these are kind of like. So what I'm doing is really analyzing. You know, what is the difference between my answer choices? That's the concept they're asking me to do. So let me tell you one that's really common. Number 9. This stuff comes up a million times. If you're looking to improve your writing score in like 5 seconds, learn how to do questions like number 9, because that would give you 50 points. Like sometimes I teach students, I increase their score 50 points in literally 2 minutes of teaching just by teaching this concept. This concept comes up maybe 6 or 7 times on the writing section. There's no reason you should be missing these. These are called transitions or conjunctive adverbs. So what you want to do is you want to I'll teach it to you right now. You improve 50 points maybe. So what you want to do is consider the relationship between the two sentences. So the sentence that the question is in and the sentence before that. So what you want to do is, are they contrasting? Are they similar? Is it a cause and effect relationship? Has it... Okay, so that's general strategy to the writing section. Jasper asked what I think of Ivy Global tests. I think they're a little harder than just normal tests. I don't find them to be very proportional in their question types, so I don't find the scores to always be that accurate. The wording they use, it's pretty good. It's not bad. Again, practice tests, if you know strategies, none of them are ever going to be terrible. You just need to make sure you know what you're doing, so, and how to use them effectively. So Princeton Review, I would say, is more equal to, you know, College Board level tests. Again, not very proportional with the question types. I've actually databased all practice tests from these places, run some statistics on them, and to me, they don't seem very accurate. So just order of difficulty, I say Kaplan is usually one of the easier ones. So when you get a really high score at Kaplan, don't get too excited. Princeton's a little harder, and Princeton and College Board probably around that level. Barron is probably way too hard. It's harder than the actual test, which could be good because it kind of throws you in the deep end a little bit, but also don't get scared if you're getting like a 1200 on the Barron or something, because it's not always that accurate either. Chance of getting a -1 or perfect, honestly, I can give you like a 50% or 60% kind of thing. Really, how much time you put into it, how quick you pick up these concepts that I'm teaching you. If you're studying by yourself, honestly, it's good, Ben, and I appreciate and I encourage you, and I really respect the time that you put in and do yourself. But honestly, if you're not learning these concepts from someone or some resource, then it might be a little hard to improve. You're kind of going to hit that law of diminishing returns where you're going to get really, really high in the beginning, and then you kind of dip down. So any other questions? I'm getting a little bit tired, honestly. Don't mean to cut it off. I might talk a little bit more about some of the reading question types, but if not, I might just call it for today if nobody has other questions. And then next time I can always go ahead and do some more. So I want to give you guys some time if you're going to ask any last minute questions. What is my LOL rank? I used to be diamond, but I actually don't get a lot of time to play anymore, man. So I think I'm at like a gold right now. So that's kind of sad. I'm a support main, so if you guys want to play with me, just let me know. But you should probably be studying for the SAT as well. So send me a PM. I don't want to just throw it out here. So send me a PM if you want to play League with me. Okay, so it looks like it's dying down again. Jasper says, I said it was hard, but you thought it was easy. Honestly, it has to do with preference. I think sometimes sometimes one person thinks it's hard, sometimes, you know, other people think it's easy. It depends on what kind of question types you're good at, what kind of things are a little more intuitive to you. It's hard for me to just say this is hard. Why I said Ivy Global is sometimes a little harder is just because like the vocab sometimes is a little harder than other things I see. Grammar rules and rules questions. So I think that's what you mean, grammar rules questions. So that's kind of broad. I don't know if I want to get into all of that right now. I'm sorry, but like the punctuation kind of questions, I would have to really walk you through every question type. It's hard for me to just say, hey, here it is, and then we'll worry about that. Like, you know, you need to know some grammar rules. Like there's verb tense questions, there's subject verb agreement questions. You need to know how verb tenses work. You need to know what a past perfect is. You need to know what a future perfect is, stuff like that. And then there's punctuation that we talked about. You got to know what a semicolon does, which means you also need to know what independent and dependent clauses are. And then other things like that require grammar rules, you know. Sometimes there's like run-on sentences, especially when you get comma questions. Sometimes you need to know, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that does with grammar. Grammar's a broad subject. There's some questions that don't like require what I would say traditional grammar. So stuff where like number 9 over here, it doesn't really require that much traditional grammar. So let me see another one that is really that I would want to talk about. Something like 13. This isn't a grammar question. It says which choice most effectively combines the two sentences. So really what they're asking you to do is make it concise. So it's a different kind of question, different criteria. So every different question I got a different approach for. So you're not approaching it the same. Ahmad asks, what is my improvement story? So I don't mean to humble brag, but I'm 25 now. So I took the old SAT where it was 2,400. I got a 2,300 basically at the beginning. It was kind of intuitive for me. And that's just because I think very theoretically. And this is why I'm thinking theoretically and trying to explain to you how the test works. I'm not trying to tell you, hey, you got 9 wrong because of that. Because if you understand the theory behind the test, you can start improving. So I never went to a lot of these places, but some of my students, they start at like 900, and within a month, you know, sometimes they're at 1,500, 1,400, and that's because they're putting in the work. Also, if you're doing well in high school already, it helps. It's not always exactly what you learn in school, but I mean, you're starting to see you have to know actual math concepts. You have to still know actual grammar rules. Is how you're doing in school, but you know, there's always room for improvement. And you know, if you're struggling, it's doable. I've had students that were failing some of their high school classes, but they're getting 1,400s or 1,500s, and that's really understanding the strategy and putting in a lot of work. I'm not about that 1 hour and now you're going to improve 500 points, because you know it takes more. Like there's maybe 100 question types I have to teach you, 100 different strategies, and you still got to practice all those after you learn them. So it's a little different. Jake asked if UWorld is a good reading and writing resource. I know you guys are all asking for the perfect resource, but again, I'm telling you, none of these resources are teaching you anything. They're just giving you a crap ton of practice problems, or they give you some generic advice, and that's just not enough. Like you're seeing right now, I'm trying to give you real concepts, and if you're not understanding those concepts, you're just going to keep missing the same problems over and over. You're going to miss them sometimes because you got it right because it sounds good. You're going to get them wrong sometimes because it didn't sound good. You know, it's just like too inconsistent. So once you start learning the strategies, your score starts becoming a lot more consistent. Any last questions, guys? So it sounds like, I mean, this was helpful for some of you guys. I'll post on Reddit for maybe the next time that I'll do this. Maybe we can do writing, since a lot of you guys have been asking some writing questions. We can kind of break them down. And I think the strategy is like ridiculously good for the writing section. Ahmad asked, when did I take the new SAT? So I went ahead and just took the new SAT just for fun. I mean, I already finished college. I didn't need to take it, but I wanted to prove to people, you know, I can get a good score on it too. So I took it kind of the way, I took it the year that it came out just to kind of get a feel for it. And I also wanted to sit in a real life situation, right? So how was I able to do that as an adult? Because they let anyone take it. You know, your mom can sign up. I mean, I talked to this other guy. He's 29 and he's thinking about going back to college, and he's taking it. So anyone could take the test. You don't have to do it for college. So that's why I did it, just to prove to students, hey man, here's my score. I can do it, and you can too. You know, if you learn the right things. And that once you start doing it as much as I've done it, which you probably won't, but once you do it, you can go through this fast. You start knowing what to look for right away. And that's how I can do all this in under an hour and a half, even though you get like 3 hours. It helps that I'm pretty good at math, so I kind of breeze through that really fast. But yeah, so I would say you guys really need to practice your endurance. Take a practice test every week. It's only 4 weeks away, you should take at least 4 practice tests, hopefully more. And you want to do it in one sitting because you got to build that endurance. It doesn't matter if I teach you all these question types and then you freak out and because you already start getting tired. I would say, Metallic, start with College Board because like I said, it just gives you a more accurate picture of where you are. Maybe save 2 towards the end of your studying period, so that way you can kind of do a more realistic one at the end where you don't know all the answers. But yeah, do College Board first and look for trends. Yeah, so look for the questions that you're missing. Ask yourself, do I actually know what they're asking of me? Do I know the concept here? Because if you don't know the concept, looking in the back of answer explanations, that's not going to help you because it teaches you one specific question, but it doesn't teach you an overarching trend. It doesn't teach you something that's going to be reliable and useful for future tests. You're not going to get the exact same test question on the SAT you take. So you don't want to learn questions, specific questions. You want to learn types. You want to learn. That's what I'm trying to kind of tell you guys now. So yeah, that's it. If I don't get another question in like 30 seconds, I'll end it for today. If you missed a few things, I went too fast, feel free to look at the recording. Before you guys go, please, please, please sign up for that newsletter. I'm trying to help you guys out. Hopefully you guys can just get some more information from me. When I finish that reading guide with all the question types lined out, I'll send it over your guys' way. Please subscribe to our channel. I just recently started a YouTube channel. I'm just trying to help people out. So if you can spread the word to your friends, that's great too. If you do want tutoring, so if you go to our website, it should pop up and give you an option to join the newsletter. If it doesn't, then if it doesn't tell you on the newsletter, just sign up for the consultation. I'll get your email that way. I'll add it to our list. The link, I'll put it on right now on the chat. It's www.edenlearningcenter.com. So if you can, sorry, for some reason it's not letting me chat on here. So it's www.edenlearningcenter.com. If you can't find it, it's on the profile of the YouTube page. So you should be able to find it there. I'd love to help you guys. So just reach out to me, ask me some questions. If you want to sign up for some more long-form tutoring, hit that consultation at the bottom of the homepage and give me some of your info and tell me how you've been doing because I want to analyze you. Specifically, I don't want to give you general advice. I really want to tell you, hey, you need to work on this. Let me feed you some questions that are those that you're missing. And let me explain to you the strategy. So it gives me a good baseline. If you have practice tests, please don't just send me a score. That doesn't really help me like you've seen me explain today. A 500 or 700, that doesn't really tell me anything if I don't know what questions you're missing. So you got to give me actual scores, and then I can give you a very, very specific and detailed analysis. So it sounds like people like this. I'll probably be on maybe next Wednesday too, or I'll post it. So yeah, Jasper, study concept behind the questions. Good. Yeah, that you're getting the idea. So I'll post on Reddit for the next time. Please subscribe. It helps us out, helps me out a lot. And if you have friends that are interested in tutoring, we're running a referral program right now. So if you invite some of your friends to get tutoring with me and you need to do some tutoring later, we can take some cost off of it. If money is an issue, just talk to me and sign up and tell me, because I'm not in this to make a ton of money. I'm just here to help students out, but I do have a physical location and business. I'm just trying to pay rent and some other things too, but I'm here to help you guys out. So if it's too pricey or something like that, reach out to me and let me know. And I always think one-on-one tutoring is the best because we can dialogue, we can talk over Skype. You can be in, Syria, Turkey, or anything like that. I've been teaching some students in China, so we can go ahead and do that if that's something that interests you. So I'm gonna go ahead and, sorry, I should have had my face on here for a while bit, but hopefully you kind of get to know me a little bit. And next time I'll definitely do the writing or the math because we haven't really covered that. And I didn't get to go through all the reading, but it's hard studying for the SAT sometimes. There's a lot to do. So yeah, see you guys next time. I'll post on Reddit, so keep updated. I'll put on the newsletter, so please sign up for that newsletter because it's going to give me more information about you, helps me meet you where you are. If you're taking the test in March or you're taking it in May, if you're a junior, you're a senior, if you haven't taken Algebra 2, stuff like that. So I'll see you next week.